Hey, what's up? What's up? Hey, during the 1980s, San Francisco 49ers dominated the football arena, and they were the team to beat. Joe Montana, he was one of my personal heroes back in those days. He led the team to an impressive 4 Super Bowl wins, and he still holds the record today for the highest all-time passer rating of 127.8. He was a 3-time MVP. He didn't have any interceptions in 4 games, 122 passes, no interceptions in 4 games. No other quarterback's ever done that. And, but in college, Joe Montana was not known as a star athlete. He was actually the 3rd-string quarterback for Notre Dame when he got his opportunity to start. And so he ended up starting his senior year, and nobody thought that he would make it beyond college because he just didn't have the talent to go beyond college. Well, 49ers took a chance on him, and somebody asked him later in his career, they said, well, Joe, how did you do it? I mean, how did you win all these Super Bowls? How did you become the MVP? How did you get this passer rating? And he's, how much time? He said, well, I had to practice a lot. I didn't have the natural talent, so I had to practice. And they said, well, okay, so for 30 minutes in a football game, which is the amount of time that offense is usually on the field, he said, for 30 minutes in a football game, how much time do you usually practice? He said, I spend 60 to 65 hours every week preparing for a 30-minute game. That's astonishing. That's 120-time multiple. I mean, you're talking about 60 to 65 hours to prepare for 30 minutes of performance. Man, it's staggering, right? None of us really do that, but to be elite, to be the best, it takes practice. And that's what we're going to be talking about today. We're going to dig deeper into what it means to practice in our faith-based investing strategies. So, guys, thank you so much. Welcome to this week's Bite of Reality. I am your host of Faith-Based Investing Live, Joshua Christensen. Guys, I know you could have spent your time in a lot of different ways, and I'm humbled and I'm honored that you would choose to spend your time here with me today. So thank you so much for being here. I mean, on the right, there's a chat box. You chime in. Don't be shy. I'll answer any questions. Say hi. We'll kind of have some fun with it. But over the last several weeks, we've been discussing 10 reasons why faith-based investors are different than regular investors. And today we're going to dive into number 9. Can you believe we're already at number 9? We've only got one more to go after today. So we're coming in for a landing in the series. And so today we're going to talk about that old adage, an apple a day, right? We have to practice every day. All right, well, what does that mean? Well, let's take a minute to go back and reflect on what we've been talking about as faith-based investors. What is faith-based investing all about, really? Remember, faith-based investing is an act of committing your time, your treasure, and or your talents with an earnest expectation of increased return as governed by your Christian morals, ethics, and ideals. Okay? So let's break this down. In 2 Timothy chapter 4, verse 2, Paul told Timothy, be prepared in season and out of season, correct, rebuke, encourage, and with great patience and careful instruction. All right, so Paul wasn't talking about investing in real estate, obviously. So, but there's a principle here. There's a principle of being prepared, right? Preparation is important to the Apostle Paul. So he passed that on to Timothy and told him to be prepared. So preparation is going to be important in everything that we do, right? Practicing patience or practicing and being prepared for what we're doing. So the first thing he said was that you got to correct, right? So in a world of investing, you're going to need to find areas that are in your personal portfolio strategy that need correction. Maybe it's off base just a little bit, and that's okay. In most cases, you're not going to be that far off. Some cases you may be really far off, and we'll talk about that in the next one. But sometimes it's just a small little tweak that they're hard to find, but yet they have the largest return. Right? So you just tweak it just a little bit and you're going to see some big, big, big returns. All right. Second thing he said was that we need to rebuke. All right. So in your portfolio, a rebuke may come in one of two different ways, right? The first one is that you make a sharp admonishment to your practice. You notice something and you got some cracks in your portfolio and how you're performing. And so you're going to rebuke the heck out of it. And you're going to say, no, we're not going to do that anymore. The second thing is you're going to lose a lot of time. You may even lose some money. You might lose some of your resources and your treasure. That's a pretty harsh rebuke, right? So rebukes are often harsh, but they're always true. You know, I heard it said that if you want to know how somebody's doing, check their results. Well, the results are going to tell the story. And if the performance doesn't come out to what you expected, sometimes that's a harsh rebuke. Right? So it's a very strong admonishment. You're going to have to make some corrections at that point. All right. So the final thing that Paul said was that we need to encourage. All right. So in your portfolio as a faith-based investor, this means that you want to empower or put courage back into something, right? That's encouragement. Well, in your portfolio, you need to find ways to encourage the portfolio. You've got to maybe seek external motivations, like the series that we're doing right now. You're kind of getting motivated by me to go forward and go for it. I mean, we're going to serve our communities for the better good. We're going to bring honor to God. We're building treasures in heaven through what we're doing, right? So you want some encouragement that what you're doing makes sense. Most of the world isn't going to give that to you. So you're going to seek it externally. Sometimes it's going to be reminding yourself of the victories that you've already experienced in your portfolio. You might be facing a challenge. Maybe a deal's not going quite the way that you want it to go. Maybe you've got some challenging residents at one of your communities that, man, it frustrates you. And you're asking yourself, man, why did I ever get into this? I mean, I'm losing sleep over this. This isn't supposed to be working out the way it is. Well, guess what? Investing sometimes is messy, and that's okay. So you have to be reminded of the victories. You got to be reminded of all the good things that have happened to kind of help overcome the challenges that you're going to face. So it's remembering that you've got to encourage your portfolio. You've got to encourage yourself to drive that portfolio. So maybe you may need a peer to kind of walk alongside you, to talk you down when you're feeling down, you know, that they're going to build you back up. You know, where two or more are together, they've got a return for their investment, right? A cord of three strands is not easily broken. Those Solomon's words in Ecclesiastes. Well, you may need that peer to give you the advice how to overcome the challenge that you're facing in your portfolio right now. So I want to look at another example of something that Paul told us around the idea of practice. Remember that these are just principles, all right? I am literally taking this out of context from the scriptures to give us the principle of practice. Okay, I want you to understand that this is not a biblical theology. It is a principle that we can glean from the scriptures. All right, this is a practice that Paul had. Now, 1 Corinthians chapter 9 in verse 25 through 27, it says, everyone who competes in the games goes into strict training. They do it to get a crown that will not last, but we do it to get a crown that will last forever. Therefore, do not run like a man running aimlessly. I do not fight like a man beating the air. No, I beat my body and I make it a slave so that after I have preached to others, I myself will not be disqualified from the prize. That's a huge Huge deal. Now, obviously, Paul's talking about spreading the gospel. We're talking about building a portfolio that's going to serve others, right? We're talking about faith-based investing. So just keep these principles in mind, right? It's a very important distinction, right? That the principle here that Paul is talking about is strict training. It's that daily regimen, right? So how's your training going? What kinds of things are you doing in your portfolio, in your investment world to sharpen your mind, to help you analyze deals better, to have better practices with your residents, within your portfolio? Well, I want to give you a couple of ideas, okay? So here's some ideas on how you can do some training, right? One, read. All right, there's a lot of successful business people out there who have provided the tools that we need for success. They've written all kinds of books. I picked up a couple recently from a guy named Russell Brunson, and Russell has he's known for he created a company called Click Funnels, and he teaches people how to do online marketing. All right, so I need to get better at online marketing. I need to get better at attracting investors and attracting other possibly sellers who are motivated to sell their house and things like that. So the first one was .com secrets, and the second one is traffic secrets. So guys, there's plenty of books out there. I got both of these books for free. The only thing that I paid for was the shipping and the handling. There's a lot of inexpensive ways to get the knowledge that plenty of people out there have provided for us, right? So get out and read. I make it a practice every day to read for 30 minutes. 30 minutes every day. I don't get through a lot of pages. I might get through 15 or 20 pages or something like that in that 30-minute time frame. I'm not a real fast reader, but you know what? Every day I'm practicing and I'm learning from somebody how to improve my portfolio, how to improve my business. Okay. Number 2 is play some games, have some fun, make your learning and your practice fun. Right. There's for years I used to play Kiyosaki's game Cash Flow. And if you've never played it, it's an awesome game to help you with your mindset around investing. So over time, the repetitious nature of that game taught me a new way of thinking about the 4 fundamentals of money. All right. So it's about income, expenses, liabilities, and assets. I learned a lot of different things from playing that game on how those different key components of money, how they interact with each other. So I started playing the game differently. I started using different strategies as I played the game to see how it would all play out. Sometimes I was really super aggressive. Sometimes I played very conservative and I kind of held back a little bit. Sometimes I went into a lot of debt to see how that would move forward. Other times I played very conservatively and held back and didn't go into debt. And I wanted to see how those strategies played out and how it affected my portfolio and how well I did at the game. Well, today, all of those practice sessions are what has helped me with my mindset around investing and around building business and whatnot. So you may have even heard me say something like 4 green houses for 1 red hotel. Growing up, I loved the game Monopoly, right? These are practice games. So it's you're building strategies to build bigger wealth, right? So games are a non-threatening and a fun way to practice and learn. So find some games that you can play that are going to help you do that. I just mentioned 2. There's plenty of them out there. So just find some games that will help you with investing and help you with your mindset. Number 3, do some role play. This is kind of uncomfortable sometimes to people, but that's okay. You do some role play. If you have a good investment partner, your peer that we talked about a little earlier, that your friend is going to help support you in your journey, right? And you're going to help support your friend in the journey. So dialogue some different strategies together. practice making offers to one another. Role play some different scenarios and help each other grow. I've got a client right now, or a guy that I'm mentoring, who he wants to learn more and more and more about how to do this. So one of the things that I have him doing is writing me offers. I'm his client. I'm the customer that he wants to find a property for or whatever. And so I'm asking him to write me offers so that he can practice putting the contracts together. He can practice learning the language on how to present these offers and things like that to sellers, to buyers. And so he's using me as practice so that when it's game time, when it's real and he's in there performing, he's not practicing on his customer. That's a big, big deal. I would rather he practice with me and I can role play and teach him than to have him out there practicing out in the field, because that's going to affect reputation. It's going to affect whether or not he gets the deal. He might get some of them, but he's going to be so much more efficient if he practices, right? So that's role playing, right? You're not going to lose or hurt your reputation when you're practicing with each other. So just it's a fun way to do it. Can be a little bit intimidating, but take the feedback, right? You want that feedback loop to give you ideas about how well you're doing. Number 4, calculators. So I utilize Excel spreadsheets constantly when I'm analyzing deals. If I'm getting creative about something and I can't figure it all out, I'll actually build a calculator in Excel to spit out the information that I want to figure out, is this going to be a good investment or is it not? My calculators aren't perfect. I'm not this Excel wizard, but I went online and I watched YouTube videos. I went to the little help box on Excel and I taught myself how to use Excel. And so I would call myself more of like I'm not going to say that I'm advanced, and I'm not going to say that I'm a beginner or a novice, but I'm kind of more of like an intermediate user. And I probably only tap into about 10 to 15% of the capabilities of what Excel can do. But what the point is that I use these calculators to make decisions and I run scenarios. So some of my daily practice includes pulling up these calculators for various different strategies, and I plug numbers in just to see what things look like. What do these numbers look like? That way, when I'm out in the field and I'm looking at a property, I'm looking at a potential investment, I've got some ideas in my head about how I might move this forward, a different strategy. How can I be creative with this? What strategy might I employ to acquire this property or to sell this property, if that makes sense? All right. So use some calculators, build worksheets, do things like that that are going to help you in your practice. Seminars have a kind of a bad rap because a lot of the sales in the seminars say that if you come take our information, we're going to show you how to just get filthy rich. All right. So too many people have gone in there. They've spent $15, $20, $30, $40, $50,000 on these packages at these seminars, and they went home. They didn't get anything out of their education. They didn't put it into practice. So therefore they felt like they got robbed. Well, these seminars, that you have to understand that these seminar companies, they are education companies. They sell education. Just like colleges, these companies sell education, and it's not always cheap. It's not a small investment. So if you're going to go in and you're going to spend that kind of money, put it into practice, do the things that they tell you to do. Otherwise, absolutely, it's not going to work. There is hard work that goes into building an investment portfolio. And so you can't go to these seminars with a mindset that thinks, okay, they got the magic pill. It's going to fix everything for me and everything's going to be hunky-dory beautiful. No, you have to come back and you got to put that stuff into practice. Otherwise it won't work. Sometimes, you're going to go to seminars and you're going to hear something that you've heard a million times and think, oh God, not this again. Go into it with an open mind. Listen for the things that you've never heard before. maybe you'll hear something presented in a different way that it'll click and you'll go, oh, I get it. But you're there to learn. You're there to glean things and make your practice better. So go to seminars. There's plenty of them that are free. There's some that have a very low investment, but you just have to understand that the free ones and the small investments, that's not the end of the road. These are sales pitches to get you to the next level, to where you're going to spend 10, 15, 20, $30,000 and buy an education package from the company. But in these lower level classes, there's a lot of information that will help you get to, you can glean some information for a low investment, for a small investment. And then sometimes you may want to look at that company and say, you make a executive decision to invest in that company and take their education. But that's a choice you have to make. They're not all bad. So don't listen to everybody that says that they're garbage. It's not true. I've learned something from every one. And there's information from some of them that I absolutely will not practice, that I didn't care for. But there was information in the same seminars that was actually good information that I got out of it. So you just kind of have to weigh the pros and cons of what you're going to do with that. Okay, next, YouTube. YouTube's a great tool. It doesn't cost you anything to hop on YouTube and watch videos. There's plenty of experienced investors out there that are teaching classes on YouTube, just like this one that you're watching right here. So, spend your time watching some videos, go through some of these. There are experts out there that are willing to give the information to you and teach you and train you. So do it. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. It's just a small investment of your time. These are daily practices and daily ways to improve and get better at your craft. In this case, we're talking about faith-based investing. You just think about Lowe's, think about Home Depot. All right. You go into Lowe's and Home Depot and they've got tools, they've got supplies, they got all kinds of stuff in that store for home improvement, right? Well, if you're going in to paint the walls, you're not going to be back in the lighting department or the electrical supply department. You don't need the outlets and the wires and stuff like that to paint your house. So when you go to these seminars, when you're watching YouTube, they're going to be throwing out all kinds of different tools, supplies, resources. You got to start these the seminars and the YouTube videos and things like that with a specific strategy in mind, just like you do when you go to the home improvement store. You need to know what your outcome is that you're looking for, and then just take off the shelf what it is that you need. Does that make sense? Learning is the same thing. It's a huge warehouse of information. These are tools for your toolbox. So you just put the tools in the toolbox until a time when you might need them. Don't get critical and think that this stuff's no good. It's all good. You just have to learn how to use the tools properly. You got to learn how to use the information properly. If you know what you're looking for, you can glean the knowledge and you can actually create the outcome that you want. So there's a lot of ways to practice, right? So the point is that practice is about learning. It's about improving. It's growing as a faith-based investor. So this is about it's about improving your talents. It's about becoming more efficient with your time. And it's about employing your treasures effectively. That's what practice is about. Okay. So faith-based investors who don't practice are kind of like David wearing Saul's big clunky armor into battle against Goliath. It didn't work for him. He hadn't practiced any of that when he was guarding the sheep. So he went in against Goliath only with the tools that he knew how to use. All right. Does that make sense? So if it doesn't fit, it's going to slow you down, and it could lead to a very painful experience and maybe even death of your investment portfolio. You may just throw in the bag altogether because you weren't using the right tools. So take the time to practice every day to improve and honor God in everything that you do. Remember, you're building treasures in heaven through service to other people. Your time, your treasures, and your talents are all important in how you serve the communities that you live in until Christ returns. All right. So today's homework. Here's your homework. All right. I want you to build on last week's homework. Last week, I asked you to figure out what strategy you wanted to employ. So now that you have that investment strategy in place and you kind of know what strategy it is you want, this week I want you to decide how you're going to practice. Okay? Make a decision on how you're going to practice that strategy. Pick one or two things that I told you about. Maybe find a game, read a book, find a peer that's already doing it, find a mentor, something like that. All right. Once you decide how you're going to practice that strategy, I want you to pick up one book this week, buy a book, and start reading about the strategy that you want to employ. If it's buying rental properties, then find a book on rental properties. If it's buying multifamily, then get into that. If you want to do lease to owns, great. There's plenty of authors out there that have written books about lease to own. There's a lot of different books, whatever strategy is you want to do, but find one book this week and pick it up and start reading. Guys, thank you so much for spending your morning with me. I know we've gone over a lot of information, and so it's been a blessing going through these 10 different strategies with you. And man, I'm fired up, and I'm fired up to keep on sharing with you the things that I've learned over the years. And as we grow together on this faith-based investing journey, man, invite your friends to come out and check this out. Invite them to subscribe to the YouTube channel. Let's create a movement of Christian investors out there that are serving our communities for good and for God. Okay? Will you help me turn this into a revolution and a movement to change how we invest in real estate in America, how we treat investments, how we treat people's homes and where people live? Guys, remember, on Mondays, come back over here to the YouTube channel. You can click on our Facebook page, but come back on Mondays to find that Monday motivation. It's just a short little recording that you can listen to and share it with your friends on social media. I mean, that's awesome. Thank you so much for doing that. On Fridays, we're going to be right back here at 9 a.m. Mountain Standard Time. We're going to be discussing new topics, right, surrounding this idea of faith-based investing. So next week is number 10. Number 10 next week. We're finishing up this series. We're going to come in strong, and I'm really excited to be there. So make sure you like our Facebook page. It's EQT Property Management. All right. EQT Property Management is our Facebook page. So if you want to have some one-on-one time and maybe talk about your strategies or think about some different ways that you can practice, cool. Shoot me an email at office@eqtpm.com. All right. So just here, I'll put it in the chat box for you. So it's office@eqtpm.com. All right. So, just log in there and you can, check it out. Send me a message, whatever. I'll be happy to help you. Guys, let's change the world together. We are faith-based investors. Let's make a difference out there. All right. To God be the glory. Have a great, great week, and I'll see you next week.